Hello. Hi. Guys, can you hear me? Can you just confirm that you guys can hear me? Hi. Can I get a thumbs up, guys? Can you hear me properly? No one's telling me. Okay, Sai, Deepika, thank you for telling me. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are here today because we actually did a whole series on our Instagram, posts, which basically was about using different types of building materials in our projects. And as you know, most of our projects, the aesthetic is very earthy. It's, what we like to call earthy luxury and barefoot luxury. So we tend to use materials that are natural, locally available, and also I like to use materials with different textures. We didn't expect it, but our Instagram posts were quite successful. So we got a lot of engagement, and people were very excited, and we got a lot of questions in the comments. So the questions were enough that we couldn't answer each one of them in the comments itself. So we decided to do an Instagram live. And we have since then also asked more questions, and we've received more questions. So it seems like talking about building materials seems to be a very interesting topic amongst our audience, and I believe that most of our audience is comprises of young architects and designers. So it's quite exciting to share some of my experience with materials with you. So we'll do Instagram live sessions on a couple of materials, and today we'll talk about stone. We'll specifically talk about stone used in flooring that we have used. So, and then next time we are actually going to do a session on IPS, which I think will be very popular as well. So before I begin, I just want to take a moment to say that, we are all going through a very unprecedented crisis because of COVID. And for the longest time, we were not sure if doing an Instagram live was a good idea. Me personally, and my team, we have been affected quite personally by this crisis. So I just want to take a moment and say that we should that I pray for everyone, and I hope that we have better days ahead of us soon. Okay, that said, so I'll jump right into it. I'll try to keep this session short. If you guys have any questions, you can sort of keep shooting them in the messages here. So the first question, which is a very interesting question that we had, was, does the use of stone make the floor surfaces cooler? So I think my answer to that is a definitive yes. Yes, it does. And you can tell the difference the moment you walk into a space which has stone flooring, right? And especially if you're walking barefoot, you can actually dramatically notice the difference. And that is because stone is a natural material. It has natural porosity, and therefore it will absorb heat and let go of heat, as it's basically a breathing material. So for example, I don't know if a lot of you have noticed this, but if you walk into temples, right, like old temples with rough stone flooring, or even say the inner spaces in Agra, so in at Taj Mahal or Agra Fort or something, right? The moment you step on marble, it feels very cool. Similarly, temples, the moment you go inside, they feel very cool. And obviously, none of these spaces have air conditioning, right? So yes, I do believe that stone flooring feels cooler. And I believe that the reason for that is that it's a natural material, and it's breathing. Therefore, it I guess there is enough condensation and evaporation happening that it makes it cooler. Another point to note here though is that it is wise to use lighter colored stone in areas which have exposure to direct heat, sun's heat and light. Because a dark stone, for example, kadappa that we do use in Goa a lot, will absorb too much heat and will be very hot to walk on. So it's advisable to use a lighter colored stone that can reflect a lot of the heat back and will not absorb so much heat, and therefore it will still be possible to walk on it barefoot. Okay, next question. How is natural stone treated and polished? What are the methods used and what are the finishes available? So I guess this is not a very difficult question. Most architects would know the answer to this. Stone is a lot of actually stone these days. You can get it pre-polished and pre-treated. So you can actually, if you visit your local stone dealer, then he would usually have a display of the stones that are available in various finishes, and therefore you can in a way actually pretty much pick and choose a lot of things and not have to finish them on the site. So that saves you a lot of time. So in fact, when you compare the use of natural stone for flooring versus tiles, a lot of times tiles win is because of the pace at which they can be installed, because tile is basically has to be just brought to the site and then laid on the floor. There is no additional finishing that's required to be done, and therefore it's a much faster installation. But I think that convenience is also available with stone these days. In terms of the finishes available, mostly there are nowadays you have a plethora of finishes that are actually available, but the common ones and the main ones would be a mirror finish, which basically finishes the stone so that it really becomes very reflective, and you can it's like a mirror. And the other one is a textured finish, and there are various textures that are available, but the most common one is like a leather finish, which is sometimes called a river finish, which basically is a very kind of like it's a rough texture, but it's still not rough to touch or to walk on. So that's a lovely finish to use. Nowadays you have something called an antique finish, and you have sandblasted finish. You have so many finishes. You can even get like grooves in the stone. So I think a visit to the local stone dealer would just answer that question for you guys. Otherwise, you buy stone and you can mirror finish it on the site itself. So that is done by using grinding stones. You can take it all the way till the very end and make it extremely shiny, or like we have done in a couple of our projects, we actually stop a couple of before sort of the last finishing stones are used. So it's a mirror finish, but it's not super reflective, so it's kind of like a semi-polished sort of a look that we have done in our past projects, which we like very much. Also here, let me just go into the names of the stones that you guys will see when you look at our project photographs. So we've used a lot of Kota stone, which is actually not local to Goa or to the Maharashtra region where we have been building. Kota stone obviously comes from Rajasthan, but we really like to use the stone for a few reasons. First of all, it's a very hard stone, so it's very durable, and relatively it doesn't stain. So it's a very hardy material that doesn't spoil easily, and also requires less maintenance. So I think it's a very I like that stone because of its durability, and the low maintenance requirement, because a lot of homes we are building are vacation homes, and you don't want to use something that is that requires a lot of maintenance. I also like Kota stone because of its sort of that green color, the green blue color, because I do feel that, you know, when I lay it on a floor, it merges very nicely with my landscape, because I have this whole thing of you know, how does my building meet the landscape. So I feel like that edge to me is very critical, because I don't want our buildings to feel like, you know, we have imposed something on our site. I want them to integrate with the site as if, you know, they're a part of the landscape. And therefore the green seamless flooring, and, you know, seamless, when I say seamless, I should explain that. So another thing is that we like to use we like to choose like one stone or two stones, and we like to use it all over the house. And when I say all over the house, I also mean externally. So we kind of take the same stone, use it internally, take it out in the verandas as well. And I feel like because of the green color of the coat, was my brother calling me, when it meets the landscape and the lawn, you know, it's not jarring to the eye. It's a very beautiful sort of a transition, which I like very much. And yeah, so then we use Kota. Then we also use Black Kadappa a lot, which is a local stone which comes, I think, mostly from Karnataka. The first time I saw Black Kadappa being used was at this very famous building called the Golkund, you know, building in Pondicherry. And if all of you don't know about that building, then please Google it. And if you are close to Pondicherry, then, or if you ever get a chance to visit, please try to visit that building. I know it's not open for visitors, but that building can change your life when it comes to you know, practicing architecture. But you know, I won't go too much into detail about that building, but let me just talk about the floor in that building. It's a seamless Black Kadappa floor, and it's so beautiful. And when you walk on it, it feels cool. You know, and it's not overly polished. I think that's because of the number of years that it's existed, but it's just a lovely, you know, cooling, calming sort of a floor finish. So I love Kadappa. We have used it several times in its mirror finish, as well as its rough finish and its river finish, and we like that very much. It's again a dark colored stone, so it is you know, not maybe the best stone to use externally, but otherwise it works beautifully with the kind of landscape, the kind of architecture that we practice. Nimish is asking me the building name again. The building name again is the Golkund building in Pondicherry. And okay, then we use a lot of yellow Jaisalmer. We love yellow Jaisalmer, especially I think for bedrooms. I just love the warm glow that yellow Jaisalmer has. It comes from Rajasthan. Again, it's not local to Goa and Maharashtra, which is where we build, but you know, I still love it, and we use it extensively. You must have seen some photographs. I love you know, the way it glows when light falls on it, and you know, the feeling that it gives you when you walk on it. It's a beautiful stone to use. Jaisalmer is also is different from Kota, for example, because Jaisalmer is is actually a softer stone compared to Kota, and is more porous, and therefore it's not recommended to use Jaisalmer in wet areas, because it will absorb a lot of water, which can potentially create waterproofing issues. We also like to use Shahbad and Tandoor, which are again local stones. But we usually use them externally. We have not until now used them in interior spaces. In my experience with Shahbad, it is a flaky stone, so it tends to kind of you know, it's a layered stone because it's a limestone, so it tends to have these layers that can strip off, and therefore you know, sometimes can be higher on maintenance, because you know, dust and stuff can settle into the crevices and things like that. But otherwise, in terms of color and texture, Shahbad is beautiful, and I think it works very successfully when used outdoors in landscaped areas. Okay, now going back to our questions, someone is asking, how can one identify the local natural stone for that area? from what distance is stone easy or viable to transport. So I think with globalization, nowadays it's viable to get stone from anywhere in the world. So I guess, and to identify which is your local stone, a trip to your local stone dealer will help. He will have all the information for you. And that's how you can make your decision on that. Then the next question is, what is the maintenance process for a stone floor post construction? Do some kind of stone require more care? So maintenance process for a natural stone floor is just to mop it every day. We don't we've never done anything else. Initially you may think that your furniture may actually scratch your floor while moving in, and there are potential problems like that, and to solve that you pretty much have to polish the stone floor one more time. I think it's important not to drop acidic things on the stone flooring, because that tends to decolor the floor. So that is something you have to be careful about. I believe you shouldn't use something like a bleach for cleaning. Sometimes someone may decide to use bleach for cleaning. I think that is also that is not a good idea, because that tends to also decolor the floor. What's the second part to this? Do some kind of stone require more care? So yes, for example, marble will require a lot more care. So marble, especially Indian marble, is a beautiful stone, but it tends to yellow over time, which is also true with the beautiful pink marble that we get in India. But it does tend to yellow over time. So I would say that it's better to use marble in places which doesn't have direct sun exposure. And also I would say that don't use it for areas with a lot of I'm talking about Indian marble. Don't use it for areas with a lot of heavy foot traffic. Next, is a sealant used for stone flooring? Is wax polish a reliable sealant? Yes, so we polish our stone flooring with wax, and that works very well. The wax will not stay for a long time, but it's a good finishing sort of a material. We have experimented with an epoxy based sealant as well, but I do feel that doing something simple like a wax is a good idea, because you do want, and especially in a high humidity area like Goa, you want your flooring to continue to breathe, so you don't want to seal it in a way that it traps moisture. Can natural stone work as a door frame and a wall cladding as well? Yes, of course it can, and you must have seen it many times when especially a lot of stone is used to do door frames for doors for wet areas. And the reason for that is, I think all of you should go and look at your door frame in your bathrooms. What tends to happen is that the bottom part of that door frame starts to rot, because we in India do wash our bathrooms, and there is just a lot of water logging that happens at that bottom part of the door frames, and therefore they begin to rot. So an easy solution for that is to use stone frames rather than wood frames for wet areas. Of course you can do cladding with natural stone as well, there is no problem. It is heavy, so you'll have to think about how you're joining it for cladding, and also the size of the stone that you're using. Okay, next question. What stone is best suited for utility areas, terraces and balconies? What stone is best suited for driveways? Okay, so utility areas, terraces and balconies, Kota works beautifully for utility areas, because it's again a very durable stone, requires very low maintenance. It's something that can be used for in a very sort of a rough and tough sort of a use area like the utility terrace and balcony. It's easy to clean. And it won't stain very easily. So in terms of your leaves and things like that in terraces and balconies, which after the rains can rot and therefore can stain the floor. So Kota, I think, would be a very good option. For driveways. Okay, now this is interesting, because if you guys go to our Instagram post, you will see actually a post about paving with stone, where we've specifically talked about what we've done for driveways. So guys, we are big believers in green buildings and buildings so that you are minimizing your footprint on the environment. So that's not just talk for us. Therefore, whenever we're doing anything externally, whenever we're doing external paving, we want to do a paving which allows for most of the rainwater that falls on the ground to be percolated back into the earth. It is something that is very, very simple as a concept, but somehow it's just completely not practiced, especially in cities. But you will also see the same practices in rural and semi-rural areas. And I'm not talking about, I am talking about sort of these luxury segment, homes and buildings that are coming up, where, they just believe that everything should be concrete. Please try to, learn that this is not, this has no benefits. So doing a solid cement driveway or external areas has no benefits to you. Okay, there are many alternative ways in which you can do external paving, which will allow for 100% percolation back into the ground, and it will be as hardy, as maintenance free, and as durable as a cement floor. So externally, just say no to solid cement flooring. We have done some really amazing things, or we've tried. I shouldn't call my own work amazing, but I love that we constantly try. So we have tried to do several or we've tried to employ several materials and patterns in which we've created external flooring that allows for a lot of percolation. So again, go to our Instagram posts and see some of the photographs. But just to tell you, one of the things we do is, one of the ways to create a permeable external surface, is to ram the earth and just lay large pieces of stone on it. So this is a really good way to create pathways, walking pathways, and also to create flooring for external courtyards. For driveways, we have done, we wanted to use rough aggregate, which is just broken stone, as our driveway, which actually has been done many times before. But one of the sort of innovations that we have done is that what we realized was that a lot of times as cars roll in and cars roll out, the aggregate would just kind of move in and out of the driveway with the tire of the cars. So what we do now is we create a grid using Laterite stone, which is a local stone in Goa, and then we infill in between the grid with the gray stone aggregate. So again, the entire flooring is such that it can absorb water. You can create beautiful patterns using these sort of simple techniques. And there is no kichad, there is no there are the maintenance issues that a lot of people will talk about. They actually don't exist. So as long as you are careful about making sure that your water is draining away, that your slopes on your site are managed in a way that the water is not congregating in a particular area, then you will not have these problems. So doing a cement external flooring doesn't solve these problems. I wanted to say something here as well, which now I'm blanking out, but I guess it'll come back to me. Okay, I'll take the next question, which I think we'll keep as our last question, and then we'll go through some of the questions here in the comment box. So if you guys have any questions, you can write it now, and I'll try to take a couple of them. Is stone quarrying a sustainable practice? Of course it isn't. So if you're taking away anything from the earth, it is, to a large extent, it's obviously not sustainable, right? So that's where our practice of reuse and recycle can really come into play. Also reduce. So, you know, the three sort of basic principles of sustainability are reduce, recycle, and reuse. So I think all three can help us in reducing the use of new material, right? That is sort of the virgin material that's newly taken out from the earth. And when I say that, I'm talking about natural materials. But it also, if we are reducing our use, recycling and reusing material, then we're also, even for manufactured material, whenever any material is manufactured, there is a lot of energy that's used, and there's a lot of waste that, sorry guys, again, sorry, I am not the best at this. Okay, so yeah, so basically the point is to try to reuse and recycle. It's not the easiest thing to do, right? It sounds really classy and, you know, whatever, like very fancy, but it's not the easiest thing to do, because I think that our industry is not set up for reduce and recycle. So there are many hurdles that one has to cross, and at some point as an architect, you know, you just feel like it's not worth your time, and it isn't. Like, we also, you know, we're not perfect. We give up many times at many steps because of cost overages and because of just the sheer amount of brain space that is required to constantly keep you know, persisting on an idea, even though it's not you know, it's not easy to execute. So a simple example I'll tell you is that whenever you're going to buy, you know, even China mosaic is something that is often given as an example of where you can reuse waste, because the tile shops will have a lot of breakage, and therefore they will have this waste of tile, you know, broken tiles that can easily be used for reused for flooring, and therefore you're reducing the use of virgin material. But the problem there is that the tile shops will just have a mountain somewhere of all their broken tiles. So that will basically mean that it's a mix of all the tiles that they have. So it'll have all the colors, all the prints, like all of it together in a mountain, right? And they will probably let you take it for free. But, you know, that may not work with your design, right? So that may not work with your aesthetic. You can use it for areas like your terraces, where, you know, if for your service areas and terraces where no one is going there. But for your living spaces, you really can't. So, you know, that becomes a problem. So a lot of times, you know, you end up having to buy new tiles and break them, even if you were doing China mosaic somewhere. So all I'm saying is that try to reuse and recycle as much as you can. But yes, it is not the easiest. But if more and more of us ask for, you know, things to be done differently, then our industry will also change. So the point is not to give up from the very start. At least let's all put in an effort. And then, you know, if we kind of get tired and we, you know, don't have the resources to kind of persist, then that's fine. Let's give up. But the more questions we ask, the more these practices will become, you know, more commonplace. And I will go back to my earlier thought that I thought that, you know, that sort of slipped my mind. But for the driveway, I was going to say that a very good material to use is, you know, the paver tiles that, so paver tiles is concrete paver tiles that you get are actually laid on rammed earth and sand. So again, they are permeable in terms of allowing the rainwater to percolate. So that's a very good material to use. You also get paver tiles that are hollow. So you know, you can actually grow grass through them. So that increases your percolation, rate of percolation, and that also increases the air, reduces the cement, you know, the area of concrete that's exposed to the sun's heat, and therefore helps in keeping the space cooler, you know, and your microclimate sort of cooler. Okay, now I'm gonna try to do some questions here. 1 second. Sorry, no, I don't want to comment. If we need to use combination of stone, which stone should go well with Kota? I think, Arvind, that's really up to your aesthetic. I like, to use things that are not very heavy in contrast. So maybe something that, is a lighter colored stone would be lovely. What flooring is suitable for heavy rainfall area? Externally or internally? I think that is a question. Externally, obviously you should try to use something that's textured, otherwise it'll become very slippery. For pool side, which stone is advisable? I think you can use any stone. Again, try not to use a darker colored stone. How do we deal with marks on Kadapa due to continuous circulation? I don't think that I don't know what kind of marks you're talking about, but when the floor is newly waxed and people walk on it, then it tends to leave a lot of footprints. But over time, as you just keep mopping the floor, the floor tends to just become even out basically. Concrete cement floors, we are going to do a session on that next Friday at the same time, so that's 11:30. So yes, we'll answer all your questions on that next Friday. Can we use black granite for cladding? Absolutely. Black granite is really beautiful. It would work and look really beautiful. Will black granite fade or expand contract due to the climate in India? I don't think so. I mean, granite is quarried locally in in the south of India, so I don't think that it's not a local. I mean, it's definitely not something that's imported into India. It's a local stone, and if you're using it where there is a lot of heat exposure, then you may want to just leave some gaps in between your stone slabs so that it can expand and contract and there is space for it. Does laterite walkways harden with time? Yeah, I think any kind of external walkway, once you're walking on it and using it, the stones will basically find their footing and just kind of become more stable. Laterite as a stone itself hardens over time, yes. What is good permeable paving material for a farmhouse driveway with a high gradient? Won't stone slab placed over the driveway? Yeah, so I think you guys can think about the concrete pavers. I think that would be a lovely option, and as I said, hollow pavers would be absolutely wonderful. If it's not a driveway, if it's a walkway in the landscape, you can even consider terracing your walkway. Can Kota be combined with other stones for living area? Yes, it can be. Anjali is asking what's a good driveway material. I think we've talked about that at length. How do you deal with the huge plot for landscaping when it feels overwhelming to fill the plot with plants? So basically you're saying to fill the plot with plants. Let me say here, Jovita and everyone else, please look up something called the Miyawaki method of creating forests, and there is a lovely organization called A Forest which is based in Bangalore that actually practices this. So this is a way to create urban forests, and if you have a large plot, you can actually use that method to create this urban forest, which is a dense forest which doesn't require any maintenance after 3 or 5 years, I think. And it is lovely because it uses all local species and it creates a lovely habitat for your biodiversity. So if you have the luxury of having a large plot, please consider that. You can also consider some portion of your plot for farming. Look for areas that get direct sunlight, and those could be beautiful spots for growing something for yourself, which can be local and very, very fresh. Epoxy flooring, I have actually only experienced it, looking at it, but I've never really done it myself. I feel that I've only seen it actually happen in sort of factory areas, industrial areas, and they would use gray, which actually is very dull and very ugly. So I think the new sort of in vogue material is white epoxy, but honestly I've never used it myself. I have this impression in my mind that it will get dirty very fast, and so I am kind of staying away from it, and I don't feel like I have any need to sort of experiment with that because of the alternatives available. Okay guys, we have to wrap this up soon. So sorry, one last question. Okay, so I think the last question is that is it cheaper or expensive than basic marble and concrete flooring? It all depends on the type of stone that you use, because stone, depending on where it's from and all of that the price range can be very varied. Okay, thank you guys. We ran for 35 minutes. I wanted to do it just for 15 to 20 minutes, but I hope that we've been able to answer some questions. These questions are quite basic. We're not going into technical sort of construction details or anything like that, but considering that there were so many of you who were interested, I hope that some of this was helpful. Continue to please leave us your comments, send us I guess comments are better than DMs, but yeah, if you can just leave comments on our posts, then we'll try to respond to them. I very much enjoy doing these live sessions, so if you guys have ideas on other sessions, please send us. As I said, next week Friday at 11:30 we will do a session, similar session on IPS. So Roshni, who works on my team, who's amazing, will actually be I guess running a story, asking for more questions. So please ask for questions, and if you have other friends and architect colleagues who may be interested, then please spread the word. Okay, lovely. Thanks a lot. Bye.